give up, because this sector is a very challenging one. It comes with all obstacles. On the ground and in the higher places, you know what I mean to say? So for you to really stick it out, you have to find that part where you're really passionate about it, you know. And it take me some time to really find that, you know.
Right.
And once you're more community oriented minded, then I think it becomes more of a purpose for you, you know. Yeah, man.
Yeah. What got you into agriculture? Why do you think it's so important for our community?
Well, for me, agriculture, boy, that was a long, deep story. I didn't even think we ain't got time for that one today. But generally, you know, my health was the main issue with agriculture itself. You know, we grew up in a rough community. We watch our parents just go to work, and then the streets kind of raised us, you know, which is kind of different from today.
Right.
I mean, we did a lot of adventurous stuff and then ventured into a lot of crazy stuff otherwise too. But, you know, growing up in St. Peter's and growing up with my grandmother, it was a journey, you know. So you're seeing her going out, working to feed 7 children every day. You never get that time and attention really from a parent. So, you know, you venture off into the streets.
Right.
And, you know, she would always be like, yo, Denico, you know, one day you got to stop on the road, because 2 places you end up dead or in jail, you know. And so I went through a time when I was incarcerated. And I think during that time, it made me sit down and think. And she was the only person really checking for me, you know. And when I came out, it was kind of more like, okay, I gotta prove her now that I can try and do something different.
Right.
But at that time, even self in St.Maarten, there was no opportunities for young business entrepreneurs. And so they had the Small Business Association, things like that, but there was no knowledge-based foundation within those organizations where they really encourage us as youths to get the right knowledge to, you know, succeed in a business. So, you know, you try 1, 2 things, it didn't work, you see yourself going back into the street, and at one point she told me, hey, you know, go back to try something different, you know, go to school or something.
Right.
So I went to the Netherlands, and in 2004 I left here to go to the Netherlands, and it was a different experience. And so now you have to try on your own. You have to try and figure it all out, but you don't also want to fall back into the old habits and old ways.
Right.
So during that time, 2004, I left. My daughter was born. I didn't get to see her born. I just had leave for school. And when I came back 2006 to visit, you know, my grandmother, she was sick with cancer. And that really devastated me. So I didn't really understand it at that point in time. But I felt like, okay, let me just go finish school. When I come back, I'm going to take care of you and different things like that. And really and truly, when 2 months later after I left, she passed away because she had stage 4 cancer. It was so bad already, you know. And there was nothing you could have do. And I think that really devastated me, because I never had nobody that could have tell me, hey, I'm proud of you. You know what I mean to say? And the only person you was looking forward to that, they were gone. So you felt like, what else you got to live for? What else you got to do? Who you got to prove something to? Really nobody, you know. So I tried to commit suicide in Holland in 2006.
Wow.
Because I felt like there was nothing else in the world to do, or nobody else to prove it to. And so fortunately, you know, Jah gave me the blessing that it wasn't my time, but still, you're living in a world now, and now I was diagnosed with epilepsy because of that. So, you know, my brain was deprived of too much oxygen, and so now I suffer with seizures. So now I gotta live with this consequence, still not understanding it, still hating life, and you're trying to go through it, you know. And in 2008, I just decided when I done school, I'm gonna come back to St.Maarten. You know, I didn't really like living in Holland. I love it for the experience, but I didn't really like living there. So when I came back, I got a job, you know, by Today newspaper and different things. And every year I go to Carousel for an MRI scan. And so within that sense, 1 year in 2011, I was there and I was walking through the stad, and there was like this nice little juice bar and a truck. You know, a guy pull up, plug in a machine like a pocket meter to get electricity. I was like, wow, that's interesting. And from there, he was making these smoothies. At that time, you know, St.Maarten, they didn't even have the word smoothie. Nobody didn't know about smoothie yet, you know. And I was like, wow, this is very interesting. Let me take this concept and maybe I could do this in my community when I reach home, because there's nothing healthy on the strip in St. St. Peter's.
True.
Chinese food, Spanish food, nothing healthy. So I built a little hut in the front of my house, and I just started selling smoothies and stuff. And from there I started meeting all type of people, ministers, regular people. Mr. Richardson stopped by, and he used to come and talk a lot about agriculture, like, hey, you planting these things, and I'm just like, St.Maarten can't plant nothing, because that's what we were brought up being told, the place rocky, it dry, the place can't grow nothing. So we stuck with that, and he was like, nah man, St.Maarten could plant things, you know what I mean? And so, back and forth he would come buy smoothies, different things. Then one day, Minister Lake, former Minister Lake, Maurice Lake, right, he was at the juice bar, they came to buy a smoothie, they talking politics now, agriculture and politics back and forth, and I just stuck in the middle, like, what is really all about? But Minister Lake gave us an opportunity. He said, there's nothing going on with government for agriculture.
Right.
If you want help, maybe you can come up with a beautification plan, and maybe if you save enough money out of that plan, you can do something with agriculture. He was referring to this with Mr. Richardson, and that's why we got the beautification job at the roundabout in Cul-de-sac when it used to look nice, without the maintenance contract after, right? But anyway, that went down, and during that job, running to Green Fingers and buying materials, my stepfather, who is my sister's father, his background is St. Kitts, St. Lucia. So those people, Anguilla, those people have always been culturally connected to agriculture. So when we was in Green Fingers one time, we were like, man, everybody talking this thing can't grow. Let me buy some seeds. Let me do something in the front of the yard, you know. But that time, keeping in mind, I'm still suffering with seizures. So for me, sometimes I forget things. Sometimes I am how you say, very distracted and unfocused, So I just doing what I try to do, keep myself occupied on a day-to-day basis. And so he bought these seeds, and let me tell you something, like 3 months, he planted them in front of the yard. And I ain't even seen him planting. I ain't seen no trees. I ain't seen nothing. So unfocused, I just go in the shop, do what I do. And then one day he came inside. He was like, look at this.
Look what I have.
Eggplant, broccoli, seasoned pepper, bell peppers, all of these things. And I asked him the dumbest question, like, so when you get all them thing in the shop, that thing look good. He said, boy,
this is right in the front yard.
You buy the thing right outside in front of the yard. Every day you pass in there, you ain't seen that.
Wow.
I tell him, by me seeing that, now, like literally so distracted, in life, I ain't seen that. 3-4 months, them thing planned there, you ain't seen it. So I gone outside now and look on the ground, and I seen all these beautiful plants, peppers, broccoli, eggplant. I check in like, what? This is amazing.
Right here in St.Maarten.
Right here, and I think that was the starting point where it was like, hey, this is something fascinating, dive a little deeper into it. And so getting into that, seeing it happening now, you're just basically so intrigued, you're starting to go and research, okay, how to make it grow, how to keep it healthy, how to keep it thriving in a sense, and going through that research, I end up on Dr. Sebi, talking about your food is your medicine, and plant-based foods and alkaline foods, and that really sent me really deeper into researching and understanding plants and the human body. And so by doing that, it ventured me into just so much different information that was really relevant to the common sense. You know what I mean? And you're saying, well, okay, if you eat these foods in a wholesome form, if you analyze your body, and your body is something that always repair itself, if you give it things to help it repair itself, it will eventually repair itself, So I started diving deeper into his theories and his methodologies of how he approached the situation with plants and humans. And it was just simple. Plant your most organic food as you can, get your exercise, try and get enough rest, but feed your body with as much wholesome foods, he called it. So if it don't look the same as it look on a tree, where you pick it from, then try and use less of that. You know what I mean? And so I started diving into that. After the beautification thing, I started to inquire to Minister Lake about, hey, it would be really nice to get a piece of land to do something with agriculture. I think this could be something great, you know. Let's do something connecting the two agricultural projects. But and that was in South Chua along with Mr. Richardson's project. But at that time, politics again, you can't get to certain access of land and different things.
I remember all of that.
But I guess it was a blessing in disguise, because where we ended up was really good. It was government available land, and there was so many beautiful fruit trees there already. You know? So it was like we had to be there, And
that's the Spaceless Gardens.
Yeah, that's basically up on Strawberry Road in the back of Hillside Christian School. Spaceless Gardens, in a sense of a concept, is spaceless. It doesn't really have a space.
Right.
We just create little gardens and little things everywhere we go, and if we could get a return on them or utilize them, then that's great. And that concept just grew into a community garden, and now it became an agricultural foundation. So that transition to over the years, also I was grateful to go through all those challenges to understand how better to structure the platform, for more sustainability in the long term. So now we're here at this point where, I'm requesting for the land, and we got this piece of land, and you got all of this knowledge inside your head, and you're trying to put it into practice now, And my stepfather was always there along the way, showing me the old traditional way of how things were done. So that was a blessing, and from there we started the community garden and ventured off into bringing the awareness into the community, and we could plant and fresh food and organic food. And to tell you the truth, that started out in 2013. 2015 was a really challenging time in my life too, when I had no job, I had nothing, so it was really like do or die, so what are you gonna do? You're gonna give up, or you're gonna go hard on this? And I think it's that time when I literally learned that money grow on trees. You know what I mean? And people don't think money grow on trees, but money grows on trees.
Absolutely,
And from there, having a daily routine of exercise, planting, everything, 5 years passed, 6 years passed. Then around 2017, 18, I really realized that, hey, but this year I didn't get no more seizures.
Oh, okay.
That's interesting. So I kept monitoring that. 2018, no seizures. 19, no seizures. 20, 21, 22. Now we're in 2024.
And you were still going for your MRIs in Curacao?
No.
So you stopped? Okay.
Right. I stopped like around 2014.
Okay.
I had stopped. And so I was just in a depressive state of mind, and I didn't want to go through these things.
True.
But I was trying to find my own way out of it too as well, with this whole thing with Dr. Sebi and agriculture. And by 2024, now I'm still seizure free, and for me it has always been now the mission to bring awareness. Everybody think that I'm not a commercial farmer. I was never a commercial farmer. I can understand now how to do commercial farming, but I was always an educational farmer. That I took it from a whole different approach. And with that, I can create other farmers to be able to fill the capacity of the gaps that we're missing. So this is where I kind of find my purpose within it all of sharing my journey, what I've been through, so people could see that it's really a realistic situation, and you can make gradual changes in lifestyle habits to better yourself along the journey. And it really goes back to the simplicity of life. All the things that we now become so disconnected from, things our grandmother used to force us to eat and different things. We were young, we used to run out in the community and run up in the hills and eat fruits. That was our adventure. Pick fruits, ride bike, fall, get up, build car, build kite. Now even though we have so much vast information, it really deprives the next generation from all those valuable things. So I really found that niche where I think it's very important to keep those small little cultural aspects alive. So even though we're in there with agriculture, people fail to realize that agriculture is the pillar of everything in life and everything with life existence. And without agriculture, there's no ecosystem. Without the ecosystem, there's no animals. Without animals in a thriving environment, there's no humans neither. So we all have to look at the pillar and the foundation of it, and we also have to change the way that we've been educated about it. Because if you look today, even the youngsters don't want to get involved in agriculture, because even the way it's being promoted, you see the old lady, sweaty, black, and the old man and thing, and everybody check it like me. I don't want to go up to the sun. You understand? But I was listening to this African girl one time, and she said something very important. She said we have to start to make agriculture look sexy, and it was a young teenage girl, and saying sexy not in a sexist way, right? But more in a way that it becomes appealing to the youngsters. Match it with fashion, match it with trends, match it with community trends that youngsters and like to do, match it with music, and get more youngsters involved. And I think that was so important to hear, because that's why I think the next generation is lacking, thinking that, boy, this is a dirty job, this is a hard job. Cool it's not cool. But the reality is now too, with all these technological approaches that we have to our advantage, it's time that we could work smarter and not harder. So we need to also promote that and get that into their environment that they're in, lead them see like, hey, I could just click a timer, click, and this comes on, the setup might be the hardest part, but the maintenance may go a whole lot easier. So with the right knowledge and the right approach, now I really want to, with the help that we just received too, especially from R4CR, which was the grant through the Dutch Kingdom Trust Fund and VGNA and the World Bank. We were very grateful to be able to take the agricultural center now to this next level, where now we have a 40 by 20 foot greenhouse that is basically subdivision in two areas: traditional and advanced technology with agriculture. Right. So we're using grow towers and grow tables.
Yes, I saw you posted that the other day. You were growing bok choy from these. I was like, okay, this is interesting. That looks sexy, actually.
Right. You know what I mean? And so now that you put one or two of those things in a school, the children gonna be fascinated. Like, boy, how does this work? You know what I mean? And that might encourage them to want to get involved. Look, we ain't trying to change the whole community, but if we could change 1 out of 10 people to become a farmer, that's one more sustainable crop that we could add to our supply and demand chain, and right now we don't have anything. And when I say agriculture is so important, people fail to realize that we were brought up in this society where we tell our children, hey, you gotta be a doctor, you gotta be a lawyer. Slowly but surely now, with all this vast information out there, you really see that the school system really kept us back to a certain level. True. And everybody is starting to realize that now, and some making transitions into homeschooling and different approaches to their children's knowledge-based education. And it's now about finding their creative purpose in it all and help them to be involved in the things and the environments that's going to stimulate that. Right. And so with that now, you're looking at how, for example, we can create an environment within the communities to try and stimulate this type of movement, and so by having the center, having these different approaches and being able to just continue build awareness. We do our food program boxes where we give out like 24 boxes a month to vulnerable community members. Right. And that is in a mixture of local and foreign produce, because of the fact too that, hey, there's nothing sustainable locally going on. Right. But we do believe that could change with the right knowledge and the right mindset. Because like I say, when we look at knowledge and information today, we see how much younger people with that knowledge are thriving at even younger ages, even if they're becoming social media influencers or whatever it is. But it's also important that we tell our children that, listen, you could be a doctor, you could be a lawyer, but you could be anything too that you want to be. Like my boys, I don't force them into the farm. I give them an opportunity. I say, listen, you come here, I pay you $5 an hour. Right. You do what you got to do. You're 12 years old. Imagine if you clocking in $5 an hour every day for a month. You could make minimum $800, and you making minimum wage at 12 years old. And you could do what you want if you financially manage your money to a certain level.
Right.
Don't come ask me for no phone. Don't come ask me for no biscuit, no chubby them thing in the shop. Use your own money and go buy it.
Get those things,
you know.
Yeah.
And I had to start doing that with them too, because I get up in the morning, make food, breakfast, fruit, cut up fruit. Come back in the afternoon, fruit squash up in the bag, bread squash up. Why you don't eat it?
Yeah.
By daddy, I wasn't so hungry. So why you don't give it to somebody then that could have used it?
Yeah.
By daddy, I didn't think about that. Okay, so here one now. You gonna get up in the morning, make your own food, iron your own clothes, do all of that. And if you don't do it on time, then you're gonna be hungry during the day. And so we have to, because we give them all those luxuries and conveniences, they become a certain level
complacent,
of you know.
And so you have to let them understand the value of these things now,
you know. And so with that too, now I start to show them too, like, you could be anything that you want to be, but also to remember a farmer is one of the most important jobs in society, because no matter what career you have, you gotta eat.
Yeah.
Doctor, lawyer, accountant, whatever it is, you have to eat. And if none of those people don't eat in the morning and get a healthy breakfast,
they can't function.
None of them ain't gonna function properly. So who is really the most important industrial person that should stand at the forefront of everything to make sure that everybody health-wise is good too as well? Is the farmer.
Absolutely.
But yet we deprive it and put it right to the bottom. But we fail to realize too that this is, I don't even know if it's $1 trillion industry no more. Because imagine this, no matter what your habit is, no matter what your fetishes is when it comes to food and different things, everybody has to eat.
Yeah.
True. So everybody is spending money constantly on food every single day.
Yeah.
You buy a phone once a year, maybe you buy, you know.
But every day you have to eat, absolutely.
Every day.
And you know, we see St.Maarten and we always say, you know, tourism is our pillar, which could be true, but then the tourists, they come here too, and what do? They eat. St.Maarten is known as the culinary capital of the Caribbean.
Right.
Culinary means what? Food. You gotta eat. You gotta get the food somewhere. So I think, you know, just as important as tourism, I believe agriculture is just at the same level or maybe even higher when it comes to the pillar that the country should depend on. And I think government needs to look more into this. I mean, we hear them talking about it every election. Agriculture, this. I don't know if they're just trying to get some cool points, but
you know.
Yeah, but how do you feel? Because I know we've seen many times, and I know you don't really get into the politics, but how do you feel when you see past governments or other ministers or whatever going to different countries and, you know, signing these things where you're like, but listen, we have everything here home. We could do this. You know, just give us a space, give us the finances, and we could get it done.
Yeah, man, definitely.
Yeah. How do you feel when you see those things happen?
You get discouraged. You know, you get discouraged to a level, but then again, what keeps you motivated is that food, you could never run out of food, or your food could never really go unsold. Yeah, and that is one sector that if you market it right and you have a right product, you gonna always have sales, no matter how much other things are coming imported. But the thing is, why not develop what we have here first before we go outside? Because remember, even if we decide to produce all that we can here locally, we're still not gonna have enough to feed our people. So when people talk about just in between the political arena and where you're saying they're going overseas and then they're talking about independence, common sense, right? Independence is a funny word because it's independence of something or someone.
Right.
And that's why English is such a funny language within the educational system. And I listen to people literally and I just use my common sense. But we are all independent of one another. That is the human race and the ecological system of life. Everything coincides with one another. But because we're so separated, we have all of these challenges. Because we're not holding one head, one view, we have all of these obstacles. So when we go back down to it and look at hey, if I planting tomato, corn, pumpkin, I can't plant, even in my space, I cannot plant everything that everybody wants.
Right.
So the most knowledgeable thing for me to do is try to network with a neighbor and say, boy, look, you got a little space over there. You could grow some chives. I could grow pumpkin. We could share with each other, but then we could still sell to the other community members.
Right.
If we can encourage the whole strip down the line, everybody to plant something, one thing different, now we all have a plate of food. Check it out, guy. A plate of food we all have now, and we have access that we could generate additional funds from, right? Now we run out of space. What we gonna do? Boy, we ain't got no more space. But how we call somebody in Anguilla Bar, see if anybody over there got space that we could venture with them and say, okay, if y'all could grow lettuce and give us this, what we don't have to, that'd be great. And we could give you these things what we done growing already too. That is being independence of one another to build a long-term sustainable economy. But this word independence, when everybody, I go in on my own, this, that, nobody can stand on their own. And we need to take that out of our head. Because even when a disaster hits, you need resources from somebody else from somewhere. Okay, play Batman now. Independent, me want nothing.
Yeah.
Do it. Most of those countries who want things independent, they don't get through independence. They get forced into a certain level of I call it modern day colonialization, because now those colonizers who, we separate, they call them colonizers, and they put this small group of politicians there, they become worse than the colonizers. So now we're in a dictatorship in we country where these people understand business. We talk in politics.
Yeah.
But people have to understand that politics is just business. It is business for the big man. The tax system is big business for the big man. That's why you have all these 10 years tax break, 6-month contracts. All the big corporate institutions have the most political influence, not us, the voters. You understand? People might find it strange, but I ain't gonna mention no names to get no promotions or nothing. But look at it, they have 1-2 high individuals on the island that when they say we got an event, every politician is there.
Right.
But put a community event that has something to do with the kids and that all of them don't show up. But if one of them don't show up to these particular people, events and activities, guess what? You get no endorsement from us next year. Believe that. And that kills your political career. And they know that. And when they go in there, they're lobbyists. So here what? You got to make sure this 10-layer tax law break is in place.
Right.
This law is in place. Those hillside policies are not in place because we need further development on the hill for our foreign investors. So you're going to have a draft from now till Kingdom Come if you want.
Yeah.
Until these big individuals or until we really as people in our country say, no, we had enough. We're going to put our foot down and go through the consequences by not taking your money.
Yeah.
You understand? And build up our economy. Because at the end of the day, it's sad when you see that you here locally and people come here in a year or 2 years, they have a big house, they drive in a Mercedes Benz, this, that. Now, I'm not a vanity person, but I appreciate good things and quality things in life. And I think everybody deserves that who is willing to work hard for it. Now, when you look at the tax system, we the poor people say, tax the tax man, tax the rich people. Let me tell you something, I don't believe in that. Why? Because if I work so hard, I came up with an idea. I work hard. I make my millions of dollars. Why should I pay for you to sit on home all day and be lazy? You understand?
Right.
Get up and do something, and you could probably become like me.
Just like you.
More people like me in the community will change our communities. So that mindset alone, now the politicians play with that. Yeah, we're going to change it for you. Give us your vote. So we give them all the power, and they go sit down and lobby with the big people and make their big business deals. But what about if we in the community come together and we start sitting with each other and say, look at that pothole there in the road. The road behind the farm by Hillside Christian School was not paved by Vromi. It was paved by an old man who was sleeping in a car on the side of the road. And while Hillside Christian School was building, all the waste cement back up from the end of the day, piece by piece, in little squares, he patched up that whole road. Till today, that whole road is concrete. So if one man could do that, sometimes you come outside, you give him a hand, you bring water for him, you bring food for him, you know what I mean? If one man could do that, how much roads in our community could get fixed? There's knowledgeable people in our community. There's skillful people in our community. So if we gather all of those resources, and that's why I really like what happened with resources for community resilience. It says what it is. They provide resources for community resilience, education, finances, and those are the two most important things, because education is a broad scope: financial management, project management, community assessment, how to do grant writing, all of these things. We never got a chance to tap into anything with government because none of us know how to. We didn't even know where to find the documentation. Now you have organizations like this within the communities that are saying, hey, we can come together, mobilize other organizations, and just think about these organizations just as people too, because these organizations do consist of people. So when you look at it and you say, if we could mobilize organizations or mobilize people in our community, and we give them a mission or a purpose. Look at a gated community, for example. Perfect reference. It's always clean. There's no crime going on in there. They got security, and everybody contributes towards the development of the upkeep of that community. So what happened to St. Peter's? What happened to Dutch Quarter? What happened to Tongue? We have to always say, oh, government have to do it? So what happened to us? What do we contribute back to our communities? And that is really what it boils down to, because now when we start to do that, government going to realize too, they don't got no power. You understand? And as long as we keep that power in their hands, they'll do what they'll continue to manipulate the system. Because remember, if the problem is solved, we can't ask for money for it next year again. You understand what I'm saying? And so there is business in inconsistencies. There's business in things malfunctioning. That's why our phones don't last 5 years. It lasts a year, because at the end of the day, it need to malfunction so we could go back and buy another one. You understand what I'm saying? So once we start to understand how the system is set, then you can place yourself within the system to see how best you can benefit from it. Land is free, water is free, electricity is free, if you're willing to go the extra mile to harvest them and get them for yourself. Now, we don't want to go that extra mile. We want the conveniences handed to us. But remember, when conveniences is handed to you, you never understand how to make it on your own. You know what I mean? For example, nature always pulls us back to that. That's why I love and observe nature so much, and I continue to advocate for nature, because we imperfect. You understand? Now and again, we might litter, we might cut down a tree. We imperfect, but there's a lot more things that we can do to add back to the value of it too as well, right? And when you look at it, we might sit down and say, me myself, I don't want nothing to do with that. That has nothing to do with me. But in the long term, every decision that we make as a community, as a people, affects the community, then the country, you understand? Then the world, you understand? And so we have to collectively start looking at how we're going to take responsibility for our own actions to a certain point to make sure that our communities are safe and the people in our communities are thriving to a certain level, you know?
There you have it. We have Denico Wyatte here with us. A very, very interesting conversation. I didn't even know what time it was because, I was just listening to you and I'm astonished. You have a great story that you told us. And getting the community involved in what you're talking about, I think is a great step forward. I know we have to leave, but quickly, tell us if people want to join your program, how can they get in contact with you, and how does it work?
Okay, so every now and again when we have an eco-learning program, it's like 8 weeks. So we go through the 8 weeks so that we can get people to see from a seed to the growth. And then in the 8th week, we harvest what we grow and then we eat it. You could always reach out to us at Eco St.Maarten. That's ECOSTMAARTEN @gmail.com. And My direct contact number would be 553-6300. That's 553-6300 for anyone that wants any further information on the Agricultural Center. But we are here in the community to assist in different areas with plants, seedlings, slips, educational seminars, fertilizers, organic pesticides, and basically whatever resources that a farmer would need to be able to successfully execute a project. And before I go, this is the thing I missed out. I'm telling you, ever so often nature reminds us of the things that are important. And whether it's a man-made disaster or whether it's a natural disaster, it always pulls us closer to nature and closer to people. When a disaster happens, it reflects. We come outside, we say, hey, morning neighbor, how you? You good? You had water? You have food? How you doing over there? No current? Okay, let me go outside. You got chicken? I got this. Let me cook up a pot. You look in the night, no electricity. You're watching the sky. You admire the stars. You admire the moon. You talk stories. When GB come back on, when everybody the internet come back on, you pass your neighbor straight.
Everybody gone again.
For the past couple of years, you don't smell no cake baking in the community. Christmas passing, this, that. A lot of these things we've been so disconnected from. We need to look back at the things that mattered the most, that kept people together, that kept communities in jollification. How much people build their house because it was togetherness, partner hand, this, that. We lack that, and I think those are the resources for community resilience that we need to tap into so that we can have this long-term sustainable outcome for the generations to come. Without that, I think we're facing a very, very detrimental future when it comes to our food, and most important too, when it comes to our health. And so without good food, there's no good health. And so that leaves a race of people that are just basically, I call them people that are existing and not just living to fulfill a greater purpose in life of making this world a greater place for one another, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah, man. Thank you, Denico, for joining us today at the Super Duper Morning Show. It was a pleasure. And I'll keep up the good work, man.
Blessed.
Keep up the good work. Before you leave, gotta ask you one more question, which is the question of the day. Interested to hear what your answer would be. Saturday's Juve morning. Are you watching it, jamming in it, or are you just skipping it altogether?
But skipping it altogether.
Skipping it altogether.
Yeah, I'm gonna be in the farm planting.
All right, you're planting it. There we go.
I planted it.
There we go. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to say to you with the attitude. Denico, thank you for joining us today. Wow. And like I said, keep up the great work. And yeah, man, I gotta check out the farm one of these days, man.
Yeah, man, for sure. Anytime you're ready, you guys are always welcome, man. Just hit me up and just feel free to pass through. You know, it's all about awareness building. I gotta actually. We off air, right?
No, still on there.
Okay, so yeah, man. Anytime you guys ready, feel free, man. Feel free to visit the farm. And like I say, right now, I'm grateful for everything that R4CI has done for us. You know, it's challenging when we don't have as much people interested.
Right.
So this is what we need. We need to get more people aware of the great possibilities. There's 80,000 species of food, right? 80,000 species of food. We only actually eat from 30. But if there's 80,000 species of food, that's 80,000 business opportunities. And if 80,000 of those can produce a byproduct times 10, that's 800,000 business opportunities.
Right.
Why are we still having people that are unemployed, that feel that they don't have a niche that they could tap into, when we have such an unsaturated market that needs to be filled, you know? So when you're interested, come through. You can learn something, pull up your backyard. That's the most important thing, you know. And from there, it's all about, you know, grow what you eat.
All right,
you know.
Sounds good. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to station with the attitude. We're gonna take a break. We got birthdays coming up, so don't you go anywhere.